To accurately analyze a piece of verse, we must first experience it on its own terms. Before we deconstruct the mechanics of a text, we have to hear its rhythm and absorb its imagery without analytical interruption. Fear not the hungry feather. Those who have cracked earth return to garden. Limbs and a scent too alive to attract the seekers of the sign of death's decay. Those that scry in search of no afterlife find company with cypress in repose. These collectors of the dead sweep the skies and sweep ground below with their hunting eyes. That uninterrupted reading provides the sensory baseline. It establishes the aesthetic weight of the piece before we begin dismantling the architecture underneath. The sublime effect of this poem is not accidental. It is the result of deliberate engineering, specifically Michael Cantrall's exact use of diction, rhetorical devices, and dense biblical allusions. The text operates simultaneously on two parallel frequencies. On the surface, it is a naturalistic biological observation of scavengers. Right alongside that, it functions as a rigorous theological framework of spiritual sorting and salvation. We'll deconstruct this poem step by step, starting with the surface imagery, moving down into phonetic wordplay, and excavating the scriptural bedrock. Evaluating a poem through these mechanical and structural lenses is the core task of literary analysis. It bridges the gap between passive reading and active critical understanding. Look closely at the opening line. It sets an authoritative, anaphoric tone immediately. Fear not the hungry feather. Here, the author employs synecdoche. By reducing a complex, living organism down to a single feather, the text strips the bird of its natural grace and isolates its base predatory instinct. This image shows the biological reality of the vultures in a dead tree, but the poem's rhetorical choice takes this physical reality and subverts it, transforming the bird from a natural avian scavenger into a demonic collector of the dead. Within the operational logic of the poem, these entities are completely blind to spiritual vitality. They ignore those with limbs and a scent too alive, exclusively seeking the sign of death's decay. This specific metaphor establishes the poem's theological sorting mechanism. It envisions a universe where the saved are invisible to predators, and those in a state of spiritual decay are actively hunted. The poem bridges the physical and metaphysical realms most clearly in its third line, specifically within the phrase, "a scent too alive." Read literally, a scent refers to the biological olfactory smell of a living being. It is the physical proof of life that deters the scavengers sweeping the skies. But the phrase contains a phonetic duality. When spoken aloud, a scent transforms into a scent, implying an upward trajectory and spiritual resurrection. This dual meaning requires the audience to hold two realities at the same time, the physical reality of the biological body on the ground and the theological reality of the soul rising. This phonetic hinge proves the text was engineered to be read both visually and auditorily. Rigorous academic scrutiny rewards the reader by revealing this hidden structural architecture. That concept of resurrection is anchored theologically in the second line. Those who have cracked earth return to garden. This Gothic woodcut visualizes the banishment from Eden found in Genesis. The poem maps its imagery directly to this concept of Edenic restoration, pulling from both Genesis and Ezekiel. From there, the sweeping scavengers connect to the apocalyptic warnings detailed in Luke and Revelation, where birds gather for the final judgment. Here we see a cemetery monument framed by dark trees. For those who lack spiritual faith, those that scry in search of no afterlife, the poem assigns them company with cypress in repose. Historically, the evergreen cypress tree is a classical graveyard symbol associated with mourning. Within Cantrall's framework, this cypress represents an inescapable, permanent death in the earth. It is the final destination for those who actively reject the concept of spiritual rebirth. The integration of historical graveyard symbolism and King James scripture constructs a binary consequence. The dead either achieve Edenic resurrection or they face permanent decay in the ground. What makes this piece highly functional is its use of intentional ambiguity. Advanced literature rarely demands a singular, dogmatic reading to be effective. This historical photograph of a Florida marshland grounds the first valid framework, the agnostic, naturalistic lens. Through this lens, the poem reads purely as a quiet observation of the biological cycle, capturing the physical finality of the natural world. Contrast this immediately with the theological lens, where the exact same words operate as a dense, apocalyptic model of spiritual sorting, guarded by demonic scavengers. The author allows both interpretations to exist simultaneously without friction. This is accomplished through archaic diction and a steady, ominous rhythmic structure that glues the physical and spiritual layers together. Look at the final closing couplet. These collectors of the dead sweep the skies and sweep ground below with their hunting eyes. It leaves a definitive, lingering tone, placing the ultimate interpretation squarely on the reader. The value of academic close reading lies in uncovering these parallel realities. Literary sublimity is achieved through this exact kind of structural rigor and intentional design.